Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric Podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Rocco.
Yes, you are. Welcome to our version of As the KISS World Turns, where we discuss KISS current events, rumors, news, and interviews with current and past members. Strap in, crank it up, and let's talk KISS. Father Rocco. Thank you. What's up?
What's going on?
What's up, hooligans?
What's up, hooligans?
What do you want to talk about this week?
How about let's go with some kind of current stuff. So anything got anything current?
I'm thinking one of these weeks we're going to do a segment of As the KISS World Turns, and we're just going to color in our Tommy Thayer coloring books.
All right.
Just to prove that we can stay within the lines.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll play with the KISS characters. I'll get a couple of KISS characters.
You're going to play. Yeah, I was getting nervous that I was going to have to bleep you out. I didn't know
I'll
what
get
you
the
were gonna
dolls.
play
And
with.
you can have Ace's song playing. I love my dolls, and I'll have the Gene Simmons and the.
Wow.
You're doing coloring books. I figured I'd act like a child and I'd play with dolls too. So.
Yes, folks, he has had a couple head injuries in the past. And yes, folks, I will schedule him for a doctor's appointment as soon as possible. Well, here's my first bit of interesting news for all the KISS fans out there. KISS Cruise Landlocked. I have an update. Are you prepared for this update? It's big news. I mean, big news.
Well, every time we do this, we talk about Vegas. What do I say? Give me more. Give me more. I'm pumped. What do you got?
Are you ready? Can you handle it?
I hope so.
Jeff Fura has been added to the list.
Who?
Yeah. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm not. Here's the best.
Wait. Is it the Jeff Fura?
Is there a the Jeff Fura?
There must be.
The best I can find out by Googling and schmoogling is Jeff Fura is a music producer and he's an A&R guy. I cannot find a link between him and KISS. So
is that like another name that Eric Singer uses?
Yeah, it might be. It's AKA. I don't know. I go on there and check, and I went, oh, great, Jeff Fura. Who the hell is that? And even after Googling the music producer, I can tell you right now, he's never produced a KISS record. So then it says that
maybe it's something that's coming out. Maybe he's involved in something that they're some kind of project that they're doing.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
I guess that's possible. I didn't really think of it that way, so you could be right. There could be something having to do with something they got coming up. And in lesser KISS Cruise Landlocked update news, and this is no big deal, folks, so, if you feel the need to fast forward through this, you can fast forward. And Father Rocco, if you need to take a pee break or something, now's the time to do it. Because Eddie Kramer has been added to the list.
Huh?
Really? Wow.
We now have Eddie Kramer and Bob Ezrin.
Q&A, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm ecstatic over this.
Yeah,
that's ecstatic.
That is some cool shit right there.
I think this may top, for me, this may top everything else. Bob Ezrin and Eddie Kramer, and people are going to be able to ask them questions.
That's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, I thought so. Now for the funny part, because I found this funny. If you go on to the KISS Cruise Landlocked in Vegas website, good luck. Just Google it. I don't remember what the email or what the website address is, but it's something like KISS Cruise Landlocked. And you go into the packages like I did. They're advertising that the top 3 packages are sold out. And the only package that is left is the bottom package, the one that we took, the cheap guy package. And they're advertising that is, I love this, 80% sold out. That is marketing and promotion at its best. Because how can you be 80% sold out?
It's kind of an oxymoron there.
That's a KISS thing right there. Oh my God, 80% sold out. I got to run out and get it right now. You guys take that for whatever you want. I have heard rumors that it's like 50% sold out altogether, but I don't, they're just rumors, so I don't know what to believe. So it's either 80% sold out or 50% sold out. I don't know. So I guess it really doesn't matter. If you want to go, you should go. And if you don't want to go, it doesn't apply to you. Next up, Gene Simmons on the HoneyDew Podcast with Ryan Sickler. Father Rocco, would you like to impart some of your wisdom?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
I'm sorry.
It was not easy to watch. I watched it and skipped all the way through most of it. But I did, I listened to it and listened and skip, and there's a reason for it. Ozzy Osbourne just passed away. I never knew how much Gene Simmons cared about Ozzy. I watched a heartfelt interview with Gene Simmons where I literally called him Gene Klein because he sounded more human and heartfelt than I've ever seen that guy ever be. And I'm a big fan of Gene. Gene's my guy. It was refreshing to not hear Gymnasium and the Shtick and what he usually comes up with, because that's no matter how much I like the guy, he doesn't need to do that shit anymore. And I feel like there's a big part of him that feels like that's what they want. I'm giving them the entertainer. I'm giving them what I'm supposed to do. This interview, you saw this much of the real Gene Simmons. It was maybe 99.9% shtick.
Could you do that again? I think you gotta close that down a little more.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
if you can fit a piece of paper between your thumb and your finger, it's probably too much.
It's not worth watching. And not for nothing, the interviewer I thought was horrible.
No, don't tell him that. Of course it's worth watching. We had to sit through it for an hour and 16 minutes, and I didn't skip through it.
Like I said, it was all shtick, and he talks about his mom a lot again and the Holocaust, and I've heard that stuff. To be honest with you, and I'm saying this to you, Ant, I've heard so many interviews from Gene and Paul. I don't want them on the podcast. I want Bruce. I want Eric. I want anybody but the two of them. And I loved KISS. I love them. And I know I'm going a little bit of a rant. They got nothing to offer. I've heard it all already. I just can't. The thing that drives me crazy about Paul and Gene, and I don't know if you feel the same way. It's almost like there's times where they don't even know how to be real.
But is that, and you're not going to be able to answer this question, but is that because of them, or is that because of the interviewers not asking the right questions and not corralling, especially Gene?
Okay, when they walk in, I got this.
I don't know the answer.
I do.
I'll
sum it up for you. Yeah, I do, and you'll agree with me after I say this. When Gene walks in a room, when Paul walks in the room, who's the alpha?
Oh, Gene and Paul are.
Right. So it don't matter who's interviewing them.
Oh, no, it does.
They're going to dictate what's going to be said and what's going to be answered.
No. If Gene and Paul come on the Hooligan Nation podcast, I promise you, I'm the alpha.
I would rather have Bruce Kulick to interview. I'd rather have Eric Singer. I'd rather have Tommy Thayer. I feel like I'd get more information from those guys.
Well, you would get more information, but I still think that it's partly because, well, I shouldn't say that. So I have a theory on this, and I've shared this theory with you. It is either the interviewer not asking the hard question because they want to kiss Gene and Paul's ass, or it's because Gene and Paul walk in and say, "Yeah, I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about that. I'm not. Don't bring this up. Don't
Thanks,
bring
but
that
no
up."
thanks.
Right.
Keep
And
walking.
that's. I mean, look, we can say this. It's the same thing with me beating up Tommy and Eric for wearing the makeup. But if Gene called me tomorrow and said, I need a drummer for the band because Eric's not showing up, can you play drums for us in Vegas?
But
After
think
telling
about it.
Gene that I don't know how to play drums, my answer would be yes.
Think about it from this perspective, okay? If Gene Simmons came here and was going to film with us, and he gave us a list of things not to ask, and we had to listen to him talk about a gymnasium and shtick and all this other stuff, what would be the point?
I can tell you right now, 100%. I love Gene to death. I love all of them.
Same here.
I even love Tommy.
Vinny?
No, I love Vinny. I love Vinny. Vinny is great. Vinny is material. Look, I think there's a fine line between respecting who you're interviewing and not selling yourself out or not asking the questions that you know your listeners want to be asked. Like I can't tell you how much it drives me insane that no one asks the question, where's Eric Singer? It drives me insane.
But
And look,
that becomes more and more obvious that they don't talk about it because that to me that's becoming more and more obvious because there's no reason not to talk about it.
I think I would have to, and look,
It's money.
this is very much Monday morning quarterbacking. So, but I'm now gonna put myself in the corner, and baby doesn't like to be in the corner. But I think if Gene or Paul, and we have to ask them to be on the show, and we haven't, but I think if they agreed to be on the show, either one of them, I think that I would say, hey, I have to ask about Eric Singer. No, you can't bring that up. Well, look, Gene, look, Paul, I have no choice but to bring it up. You don't have to answer it, and I'll respect you not answering it, but I feel that I have to ask this question. If you aren't going to allow me to even ask the question, we're wasting our time here and I'm not interested. Like, we can't make them answer. No interviewer can make them answer, but you sure as hell can. It's your podcast, no matter who we're talking about. Hey, this is my podcast. These are my questions. I'm going to ask them. You don't want to answer them? Don't answer them. I'm not going to ask you questions that are going to get you in trouble with Shannon. I'm not going to ask you questions business. Like, I'm not going to. I've seen interviewers ask Gene Simmons point blank, how much money are you worth? That's ignorant. To me, that's ignorant. You know how much money he's worth? A lot. You know how much money he's worth? A lot more than most of us. What does it matter what the exact number is? But they ask him that, and no rich person in any field ever answers that question. There's usually a standard question, and it's you or the standard answer, and it's usually I don't know. Well, uh, celebrity net worth says no, that's wrong, but they never say what the number is, and I don't
Right.
blame them. That's none of your business. Where's Eric Singer? No, I feel like that's all
Right,
of our
but
business.
you're right. But listen, there's plenty of podcasts out there that have had them on that have many more subscribers than we do. And I guarantee you they if they had full throttle to do whatever the hell they want, they would ask that question. There's a reason why it has not been asked.
Some of these guys don't even have a clue. Like, you realize that when Howie Mandel, and I understand that it's Howie Mandel, But how do you interview someone and not do your homework on them? Howie Mandel's interviewing Paul Stanley. Well, we sold Kiss. You did? How do you go to interview a guy and not know the current events?
Right. I mean, I would think Howie Mandel has a staff too.
Right. I mean, me personally, we don't have a staff. But if we did and they didn't do their homework, they'd be fired. Now, as it turns out, I'm the research staff, and KJ Nodwell is the unofficial research staff. So I can't fire her.
What's up, Hooligan?
Maybe I could take a couple jelly beans out of her package that I send her monthly, but other than that, but you got to do your job. It just, when I listen to this, I'm like, why do you send the request to Gene Simmons and then not ask any pertinent questions at all? And furthermore, why do you not edit out the same shit that he says every interview? I would let
That's
Gene
proof
go
that
off.
they're dictating what's going to be said and what's not going to be said.
There is no way that I would allow Gene. I shouldn't say that. There is no way that I would allow Gene's gymnasium statement make it to the final cut. No way. It would be the first thing that I would edit out. Nope. We've heard this 300 times. We're not doing it again. And I know that KISS fans are tired of hearing it.
You would think he'd get tired of saying it.
No, I understand. Gene thinks he's funny, and in some cases he is funny. But that does not mean, like, when you go to edit these things, you can't go over the top. And it's either a bad job on the interviewer, or, like you said, a bad job on his staff that don't listen to other Gene Simmons interviews where he says the same thing over and over again. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Look, nobody wants to hear a lot of things, but there's a respect factor. The fact that his mother lived through what she lived through, like, I can live with that. If Gene wants to talk about his mother in a concentration camp, every interview, I would sit there and listen to it. I've heard it 100 times, but there's a respect factor with gymnasium, with all the other one-liners that aren't funny anymore.
And there's a million freaking stories. Tell us some stories that you know what I mean? Like, there's so many easy questions that you can ask that draw you in, that you want to hear, but you know that it's not going to, I really believe that they dictate before they go on anything, before they make a commitment to go on anything, they dictate what's going to be said and how it's going to be said.
I would love to send the interview request just to see if you're right. Because I can tell you right now, as we sit here tonight, there's no way that I would agree, especially to the Eric Singer thing. Like, hey, we have listeners, we have subscribers. I know that they want to know what's going on.
Well,
I have to ask the question.
Let's play devil's advocate in their favor, and let's say the reason they can't say anything is because it's all legal and it's money. What in the world legal could be that they can't even address? Hey, listen, it's in negotiations right now. I mean, what could possibly be the reason?
No, I'm okay with all of that. I don't even need to know the reason. It's very simple. I believe we would be doing a disservice to our listeners and subscribers by not asking the question.
Absolutely.
I can't force him to answer the question, nor would I, but you are going to allow me to ask the question on camera, and however you answer it is your business. No comment. Okay, Gene. Cool, no comment. But I'm asking the question because it's the elephant in the room. Look, everybody knows, and the interviewer in this, and I don't know who this guy is, but he's got 253,000 subscribers.
He's a comedian.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's not very funny.
He knew him. He knows him through his son.
Oh yeah, I kind of got that, but if he's a comedian, he wasn't that funny in my opinion.
Like
And
I said,
you
I
have
didn't enjoy the
deemed
interview.
me a comedian, so I should know one because I am one. The interviewer asked very few questions. It was the Gene Simmons show for an hour and 16 minutes. You are right. He was absolutely the alpha in the room. He took that interview wherever he wanted to go. And the dude that was interviewing, he was holding on for dear life, it seemed to me. And I'm not knocking the dude
And
in
he
there.
didn't
I
do his
don't even
homework
know who he
either.
is.
He didn't do his homework either.
Yeah, these guys know nothing. Number one, they're not Kiss fans. It's very obvious right off the bat. I don't know why Gene and Paul want to go on anybody's podcast that doesn't have a clue about their entire career. Like these guys,
Right.
these guys say constantly, "Oh, I didn't know that." The hell you mean you didn't know
I
that?
would be
How do you
insulted.
not know that?
Right. You're on me. I'm on your show. Like, yeah,
Right.
I would be insulted.
I mean, I would think, look, we've never brought any kind of celebrity on this show yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully someday we'll be big boys and we'll do that. You got to do your homework. I would, I mean, look, I don't know how to I don't know how to be a podcaster. We've been doing this for almost a year. I don't have a clue. We just do what feels right. And we talk about what we think is newsworthy.
But there's some common sense stuff that we both have about etiquette and things you should do and shouldn't do.
And then the things that you shouldn't do, like to me, there's no reason to bring up how many women Gene Simmons has slept with in his life. Number one, we all watched the shit show of Shannon losing her
Family
mind.
jewels. Yeah.
No, the Joy
Joan
Bear.
Behar. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to dig that up. It's been played out a million times. Everybody knows it. It's somewhere in the thousands, 3,000 to 5,000. Great. That doesn't mean anything. You know, all that stuff. I don't need to know that. I need to know things like, hey, where's Eric Singer? Why is nobody talking about Eric Singer? Oh, I can't comment on that. Okay, I did my job. You choose not to give your fans what they want. If there's legal reasons, I understand that, but I feel like it's a disservice to us. I spent an hour and 16 minutes and did I get anything out of it? Here's what I got out of it. This is my notes. Shtick from start to finish. Not much of a shocker. My question was Gene trying to piss off as many people as possible with his opinions on everything from women to divorce? Gene's jokes were so cancelable in today's time. I'm jealous that he's not cancelable. Because if I sat here and did that in this little quaint podcast that we have, I have a feeling that I would get canceled for the things that he said. The other thing, I thought this was funny. Maybe some people won't, but the statement in the interview, if you go to certain parts of the Middle East and refer to yourself as they, them, you will be, was, were, because they will kill you.
Yeah.
That was entertaining to me.
Yes, that was good.
Is it cancelable in 2025? Hell yes, it is. Does Gene Simmons care? Hell no, he don't care. And I also put down, generally, it seems to me like once you sift through the shtick and bullshit, Gene has a lot of really good things to say. And people could benefit from it if they actually listen to what he said. The problem is,
you got to get through a lot of BS to get there, though.
That's right. Because if you watch that podcast over, there's a lot of good things, and it's not just Gene, because there's a lot of good things that come out of Paul's mouth and Gene's mouth about believing in yourself, about hard work, about dedication, about being reliable, being accountable, all of those things that are absolutely true statements. And I think both of us are old enough to know they're right on point.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is there's so much bullshit in the middle that I think people check out.
Mhm.
They're like they're watching it, but they're not listening to it anymore because they've heard about the gymnasiums and they've heard about everything else, and they're just checked out.
You know what? With Paul, I think a lot of the shtick that he does and his preachiness and stuff is like a defense mechanism before he even gets started. And I think with Gene, I think Gene feels like there's a need for him to be the entertainer. And I think a lot of that comes from that, depending on the interviewer. But I think, there have been some interviews where I forget who the one guy was, but he gets real sometimes. And the reason I enjoyed that interview with the Aussie thing is because he was just a normal guy, just talking about his feelings and real. And like I said, it was refreshing because you get tired of the stick after a while.
And look, I I have no idea what I'm talking about. None. But to me, it's a matter of leading the person that you're interviewing where you want to go. When you literally hand them the steering wheel after hello, you're not going to accomplish anything, especially with Gene, and to a lesser degree with Paul, because they're going to go wherever they want to go. And I can promise you from watching enough of these interviews, it ain't anywhere that the fans want them to go.
Absolutely.
Nobody cares about Paul's dining room table. No, nobody cares about Gene's gymnasium. Nobody cares about this shit anymore. We've killed this. They care about, you know, the same old. Are the four original members going to get back together? No. So what's the point of asking that question? But that's what everybody cares about. And to me, it's the current events. Hey, tell me about Kiss Cruise Landlocked. Why'd you change the name? Oh, I can't talk about that. Okay. Why isn't Eric Singer there? Oh, I can't talk about that. Okay. That's fine. At some point, you let him go off where he wants to go so you don't have a 3-minute interview with nothing. But you got to throw in the questions that are reasonable questions.
Agreed with everything, the whole premise of what you said. Again, though, like I said, these guys have been around long enough and have enough of a cachet to be the dictators in those situations. And if we were our little podcast were to have them on and they dictated certain things, like, yeah, would we want to have the ability to exposure and have them on? Sure, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to be limited. I would be respectful again, give them the chance to say yes or no or whatever. I'm not talking about that, whatever. But I guarantee if the Eric Singer thing is, listen, that's not a question before you even start the interview. That's a question. Just so you know, that's a question you can't ask right now. Pop House is in negotiation with them, and we can't get involved in that part of it.
Great. Gene, Paul, I have to ask the question. You don't have to answer it.
That's a breach of contract. You can't. Pop House would sue us.
No, they're not going to sue them
I'm
for the
just.
words no comment
But
or I
why?
can't answer that or whatever. I believe for us, at least, there is no way that I'm going to get an interview like that and then sit here and say to our audience, uh, I couldn't ask the question. He didn't want me to ask it.
No, I get that, but listen, there's the reason that I push back on that is because they've been on so many interviews. It's not like that they've been hiding. They've been out there. And you can't tell me that there hasn't been one podcaster out of all of the podcasts that they've been on, there's not one of them that kind of dictated to them, listen, man, all your fans want to know about Eric Singer. I need to at least ask you the question. It hasn't happened. Something's prevented it from happening, right? So that's my point. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why it hasn't been broached because they're dictating to that wherever they're on that's listen, you can ask me anything you want. That is a question you can't ask me. I'm saying it's probably been has to me it has to be that way. And I don't fully understand it. but to me it has to be, because there's no way, shape, or form they weren't on at least one podcast out of all of these that were super knowledgeable about what KISS is and their history and everything else, and knows who Eric Singer is and knows all that stuff, and we're going to ask that question unless they were told they couldn't ask that question.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that for the last thing that I got out of the Gene Simmons interview, and probably the biggest thing that I took away from it was in the very beginning of the podcast, the guy, and I don't remember what his name was,
Stickler?
something like that. The guy asked if Gene has anything to promote. And Gene blows this off. In the history of KISS, I've never seen Gene do this before. Oh, we sold KISS. That was kind of his answer. Now, he did not bring up Vegas. He said something. Well, we have avatars. We have avatars, but he kind of says, I don't even know how to explain it
He
to
didn't
you.
even want to talk about that.
Yeah, he wanted to talk about nothing that has to do with KISS. And I said
You
this
want
to
to talk
you.
about crypto and all his financial endeavors.
I said this earlier today. This is 100% conjecture from me, but I have to wonder, is Gene pissed because Paul stomped in and said, I'm taking this shit over and we're doing it my way? And is that because, you know, Gene's out there on podcasts saying things like, this is a KISS Army thing. We're guests. We're just gonna jump up there and play a couple tunes and blah 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 blah. And then Paul comes in and pretty much kicks in the front door and says, no, we're not doing this anymore. This is no longer KISS Army Storms Vegas. This is KISS Cruise Landlocked. We're playing 15 songs here. We're playing 15 songs there. Like at some point, I don't know, this is a question that nobody can answer, I think, other than Paul or Gene, but is Gene pissed at that? Is Gene tired of Paul being the boss, even in retirement? I'd like to end on this. This has nothing to do with anything except it's entertaining to me. I was jumping around Facebook groups just looking at what's going on in other Facebook groups, and I'm not talking about podcasts or anything like that. There's a Facebook group out there that's an Ace Frehley group. I don't remember the name of it. And there was a picture or something up as I was scrolling, and that got me to bite. And then I have no idea why, but for whatever reason, I chose to go into the comments and see what the comments were. And I almost fell off my chair. Bad job by me, as usual. I don't remember what the original conversation was, but one of the comments was, the issue is this: Gene and Paul sucked Ace and Peter dry. Gene and Paul took advantage of Ace and Peter. They milked their golden goose, Ace, dry and made him miserable. It was their way or the highway, period. When Ace finally got smart enough to quit the band, his addiction problem was way out of control. Then he ran into money trouble as well. Then when he rejoined the band the second time, he made enough money to get himself out of the financial hole he was in. Then he got sober roughly 8 years later and began producing music better than anything KISS had produced in roughly 20 years plus. It's very apparent the best music was produced while Ace was still in the band, and that Ace was the creative talent. It was Ace's riffs that made that band. Gene and Paul can go to hell with their millions. Gene and Paul aren't humans, they're vampires.
How do I unpack that? Is that guy's middle name Delusion? I'm an Ace fan.
I am too.
He's gone. The guy's off the reservation. I think Ace had a little bit to do with the fact that things didn't work out with him and Kiss. He had a little bit to do. Maybe some of the drugs that he used, maybe you know what I mean? Like a band is 4 people. It wasn't just Ace. I don't know. It's firing me up. I'm gonna kind of come back a little bit. That's firing me up.
No, I kind of, when I added that to our segment today, I was hoping it would launch you like a rocket ship.
Oh, it's got me launched. It's got me launched. I mean,
I,
listen, not for nothing. They carried those two. They were the ones making all the decisions while they could ride and be rock stars.
Now, some of what he says in here, I kind of agree with. It was their way or the highway. Yes, there's some truth to that. But there's 4 people in the original band. And as far as I know, they were all 4 equal partners. So if Gene and Paul were dictating what the band was doing, it was because Peter and Ace weren't involved or interested. And look, I love Ace. They milked
I love Ace too.
their
I mean,
golden goose.
that's so disrespectful. Listen, do I think that they were that Paul and Gene were very strong alphas? Yes.
If you have 4 equal partners, then you're equal.
Yes, but who handles all the business? Hey, listen, man, I'm just going to show up with my axe and be ready to play. You
But
guys
that's what
handle all the bullshit.
but that's what I'm saying. If you're an educated KISS fan, and well, I'm not sure if I could link that educated KISS fan with this person, but if you're an educated KISS fan, then you should be asking yourself, instead of why was Paul and Gene such control freaks, you should be asking yourself, why didn't Peter and Ace become more involved? Hey, do we have meetings with anybody this week? Oh yeah, we got this business thing about that. What time? Where? I'll be there. Cause I'm gonna help drive the car. Oh no, we don't want you there. Too bad. You don't get to dictate that. We're equal
Absolutely.
partners.
Like Ace, hey, listen, man, I'm with a chick last night. We were up till 3 o'clock in the morning, snorting lines and drinking. I'm not going to be able to make the rehearsal.
That's your problem.
You see what I'm saying? Like all the Ace fans out there, I love Ace Frehley. I'm not throwing shade at Ace, but when I hear comments like that where somebody's just putting all the praise on Ace, like he was everything for that band. No, Peter's drums and the jazz style that he brought to the band was the drum sound. Ace's incredible guitar playing was the guitar sound. Gene's bass was the bass unique sound, and Paul's voice. And they all had 4 characters equal power and added to the band.
I got another hour's worth of stuff that I could talk about that just pertain to this crazy ass comment of, are you trying to tell me that Creatures of the Night isn't a good album because Ace doesn't have anything to do with it? Let me go back. The best music was produced while Ace was still in the band. Look, in one perspective, he's right. They produced great music then.
Mm-hmm.
But are you trying to tell me that Creatures of the Night and Lick It Up and at least after that, assorted songs
I'll do you one better.
were not?
I'll do you one better. Who was a bigger band, Frehley's Comet in the '80s or Kiss?
Kiss.
Who sold more?
Kiss.
So what is he talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I put the comment
Did
here.
Ace ever? Did Ace by himself, the superstar Ace by himself? Did he ever come close? Come close to anything Kiss ever did?
Selling wise, popularity wise, musical wise, which? Because I think
How many arenas did Ace play by himself?
arenas,
Yeah,
headlining,
headlining.
as far as I know, none. And look, for all the Ace fans out there, you will not find us bashing Ace,
Never.
nor will you find us bashing Peter.
All right.
But the truth is the truth. And the truth of the matter will always be that it took 4 of them to create and cultivate KISS. 2 chose by either their actions or by actually quitting that they were not going to be part of the band anymore. Ace saw some success. Peter saw. That's just the truth. It's just like we said an episode or 2 ago, and it's always me that says it because it drives me crazy. It actually might have been you last time. They sold their makeup. They sold it. So you gotta pump the brakes on being the victim. The second thing is both Ace and Peter played in the band with Tommy and Eric. You in my world, you don't get to erase that and then say, "Oh, I think it's wrong." I think it's wrong. But I tell you people straight out, I'm a hypocrite. And I'm a hypocrite because, yes, I hate it. I think it's wrong. But if Gene called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, I need you to put on that cat makeup and play drums for KISS," I would say, "Gene, I don't know how to play drums, but when and where do you want me to be there?" It's hypocritical, but I'm a fan.
But I mean, not for nothing. If that guy went goo goo gaga nonstop over Gene, I'd be like, you're delusional too. Again, this band became what it became because of 4 individual members coming together.
And it should not matter who you're a fan of. If you're an Ace and Peter fan, you by all means can go somewhere public and pump up Ace and Peter. But you can be smart enough to do that without telling lies about Paul and Gene. Like, make it based on the truth. Was Ace an integral part? Absolutely. We talked about this earlier. Did Eddie Kramer come out and say Ace was the backbone of that band? He absolutely did. But the Golden Goose? The Golden Goose? The Golden Goose. No, there were no Golden Gooses. If you're gonna name a Golden Goose a KISS, I hate to break it to you people, but it ought to be Paul Stanley. Because he was the only original member in the band during the 80s. And the band, 50-some years later, is still here. KISS fans are not idiots. We're not fair weather. We live and breathe the band.
Or the opposite of fair weather.
With that being said, if you're going to make a comment and make it publicly like this guy did, you gotta do a better job. Look, you can like who you want to like. You can spin things how you want to spin them. But to put down 2 members to build up the other 2 members and it not be fact-based, it's bullshit. You ain't gonna do it here. And they didn't do it here. I found this from another group. You put that shit on our Facebook group, and I tell you right now, I'm gonna kill you for it. I'm not going to delete it, but I'm going to debate it because it's just not fact-based. Each one of those 4 guys did their part to make the band what it was. Ace was the Golden Goose. Get the hell out of here. Ace was drunk more than he was sober. He says that himself. Ace quotes himself as being the laziest person in the world. Do you think that KISS gets to where they get? What's the worst album that Ace Frehley ever made, KISS fans? Let's talk about this. The worst album Ace ever made was that Second Coming, the second album of Frehley's Comment. Do you know why it was the worst album?
Why?
Because no one could find Ace. He wasn't present. Everybody that's any kind of Ace fan or KISS fan knows that that's the Todd Howarth album. Do you think that Paul Stanley checked out on any albums?
Never.
Never. Okay. Mic drop. Great conversation. Thank you, hooligans, for listening to us rant.
Thank you.
If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like that guy, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes, just like that guy, and check out these episodes right here. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us, and don't forget, if it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.